Hey, mystery lovers, why are there not more people talking about the miraculous statues of the Virgin Mary? Tess had always been a devout follower of Mama Mary. Every year she would visit various towns and cities in search of miraculous statues and apparitions of the Virgin Mary, feeling a deep connection with her faith. Her travels had taken her far and wide, but there was one statue she had always longed to see, said to be hidden in a remote rural town in the Philippines. The locals whispered about its miraculous powers, how it had healed the sick, calmed storms, and granted blessings to the most devout believers. One day she received an unexpected invitation, an exclusive pass to visit this statue. Overwhelmed with excitement and reverence, she eagerly embarked on the journey. The town was nestled deep in the mountains, and as Tess arrived, she could feel an eerie calmness. The chapel was small and old, with stone walls that seemed to whisper stories of the past. She was led inside by a quiet caretaker who handed her a candle, explaining that she would be left alone with the statue to pray. As the caretaker closed the chapel doors behind her, the silence was heavy, almost suffocating. The statue of the Virgin Mary stood at the altar, illuminated by flickering candles. It was beautiful, serene, with soft eyes that seemed to watch over her with love and peace. Tess knelt before the statue, clasping her hands in prayer, her lips murmuring familiar words of devotion. Minutes passed, and as her prayers deepened, she began to hear soft noises, barely audible at first. A rustling, like the sound of fabric brushing against the stone walls. She paused, listening, but the chapel was empty. She told herself it was the wind or perhaps her imagination. Shaking off the unease, she closed her eyes and continued praying. Then came the whispers. They were faint, unintelligible at first, but persistent, growing louder with each passing second. Tess felt a chill run down her spine as the whispers grew closer, circling around her as if they were just behind her ear. She stopped praying, her heart pounding, and opened her eyes. What she saw made her blood run cold. The statue had changed. The once serene face of the Virgin Mary was now twisted into something grotesque and monstrous. Her eyes, once soft and kind, were now wide, glaring and bloodshot, filled with malice. Her mouth had contorted into a gaping grin, lined with sharp, jagged teeth that gleamed in the candlelight. The air around the statue seemed to hum with an unnatural energy. Paralyzed with fear, Tess could barely move, but she knew she had to pray. Trembling, she began to recite the Hail Mary. Her voice was shaky, but she clung to her faith, believing that her prayer would protect her. As the words left her lips, she noticed something even more horrifying. The statue's mouth moved. It was praying with her. The monstrous grin twisted as it spoke in unison, its voice low and guttural, a mockery of the prayer Tess had said her whole life. "Hail Mary, full of grace," it whispered along with her. Tears streamed down her face, her body shaking, but she dared not stop. The whispers around her intensified, and the statue's voice, once quiet, grew louder, more commanding. "Don't stop!" it growled, the words coming from deep within its grotesque form. "Pray to me!" Tess sobbed as she continued the prayer, her voice cracking under the weight of fear. The statue's monstrous eyes locked onto hers, unblinking, as if it was feeding on her desperation. Every time she thought she might collapse, the statue repeated, "Don't stop, pray." Her mind screamed for her to flee, but her feet were frozen to the floor, her hands clasped so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. She felt trapped, as though the walls of the chapel were closing in on her, the air thick and suffocating. She stumbled out of the chapel, gasping for air, and ran back to the caretaker, who waited outside. "Did you see her?" the caretaker asked with an unsettling calmness. Tess could only nod, unable to speak. She left the town that day, vowing never to return. Though the statue had resumed its holy appearance, she would never forget the moment it had twisted into something far more sinister, nor the voice that had whispered in the dark, "Pray to me." From that day forward, Tess was never the same. The vision of the twisted statue haunted her dreams, the voice echoing in her mind long after she had fled the chapel. Her once unshakable devotion had been tainted by fear, and the serenity she once found in the image of Mama Mary was replaced by a deep, unsettling dread. No matter how hard she tried to pray, the memory of that night would return, paralyzing her in terror. She could no longer bring herself to visit any chapel, nor could she bear the sight of any statue or image of the Virgin Mary. What had once been a symbol of peace and solace now filled her with unspeakable horror. Tess withdrew from her pilgrimages, avoiding religious gatherings and refusing to speak of the miraculous statues she once adored. The whispers from that dark chapel lingered in her mind, a reminder that faith, once so pure and comforting, could sometimes reveal things too terrifying to comprehend. In the quiet moments of her solitude, Tess often found herself reflecting on the events that had forever altered her life. She wondered if the visions and whispers were a test of her faith or a warning of something far more sinister lurking in the shadows of her beliefs. She began to delve into old texts and forbidden scriptures, seeking answers that mainstream teachings never provided. Her quest led her to forgotten libraries and ancient monasteries, places where the air was thick with the weight of untold secrets. As she pieced together fragments of forgotten lore, Tess discovered that her experience was not unique. Others had encountered the same chilling phenomena, their stories buried in the annals of religious history. These revelations brought her a bittersweet comfort, knowing she was not alone, yet realizing the profound depth of the mystery she had stumbled upon. Despite the terror that still gripped her heart, Tess found a new purpose. She decided to document her journey, sharing her findings with those who dared to listen. Her story became a beacon for the curious and the brave, a testament to the thin veil between faith and fear. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to stay updated on mysterious tales. Until then, keep your curiosity alive and your lights on. Thanks for watching.